Anyway.
Sir.
Sir.
Hello.
Very good, thank you, Nigel.
How's Lee? They well?
She's outstanding. Patient as ever. Good light. Andiamo.
Ian, in the grand scheme of the rugby championship standing at the moment, this game on Saturday, do you see it as a do or die almost?
Oh, from a rugby championship perspective, it's very important, and you know, it's you know, I guess no one's really established himself at the top at the moment, and would have liked it to been us, but we haven't, and so you know, this game's vital for us, and if we want to push through, this is the first of three.
Do you feel like the pressure is back on you guys again a bit more as opposed to last week?
Well, probably the same answer to the last question. You know, it's a championship that we want to win, and this is a vital game. So, you know, I think when you look at last week, I mean, we're bitterly disappointed with the result. There's no doubt about that, because and when you're looking at the game, you're looking at the first 50 odd minutes and thinking, well, actually that group had a good base for that game. We should have been good enough to push through and win it. We weren't, and we clearly got a bit flustered under a bit of pressure, and it narrowed down some of our options. So on field we've got to get better than that, and that's, I guess, the next part of this group is getting consistency in that last part of the game. But from a championship side, yep, it's a key, vital game. You have to go in and win this one.
The decision not to change the starting 15, what makes you confident that these guys can go out there and turn the result around?
Yeah, a lot of that's based on the performance earlier in the game. You know, I thought we kept them in the game with you know, probably some inaccuracies on that offside line, which was frustrating, and they went 3, 6, 9, 12 and stayed in the hunt. But overall, I thought scrum was strong. You know, the line-out functioned really, really well. We were, you know, our carries were going good. We were seeing the kicking space. We were actually doing a whole lot of good stuff, and I think that group's you know, we're back in that and making sure we actually grow and get a few more lessons from that as well.
Were there some tough conversations during the week with players about performance, discipline and things like that you had to have, or the coaching staff had to have with some of the players? Yeah,
look, I think you have those conversations anyway. They're always have a bit more rigour after a loss, and particularly games where we were giving teams a lot of kickable penalties against us, and you know, 18 points where we're feeding their psyche is frustrating.
You talked about the staying with the starting 15 being a result of the start to the game. Is the 4 changes to the bench therefore a result of the way you finish the game?
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of that. I think you know, like in Brodie's case, he's probably a return to play more than anything. It's tough on Tupou because he didn't actually get on the field, and again, so he's a guy we've got a lot of time for, but you know, we're utilising this as a chance for him to play NPC and get some minutes. I think Dalton is, you know, we've been desperate to give him some game time, and he's clearly a guy that we've got a lot of confidence in, so it gives him a chance to get some minutes. And Bodie's also coming back from injury, so and you know, Colsey, well, he's Colsey really. He's hitting people hard in clarity sessions and doing all sorts of things during the week, so he's ready to go.
Has Cody paid the price for the misfunctioning lineup in that second half?
Oh, I don't think Cody was at his best. He'd admit that, and but you know, we've got a lot of faith in him. He's a quality rugby player, but sometimes it's, you know, the right thing to get that is just to take him out and just to work hard on things behind the scenes.
Has there been a greater responsibility put on the leadership group this week, given the ill discipline in that second half, to tidy up that area and get the messages right on the field?
Yeah, I'm not sure about the ill discipline so much. I think in the first half there were 4 defensive penalties that were frustrating early. Second half was more about, you know, the amount of territory and field possession that we had, and yet we perhaps didn't bring enough variety to what we're doing, and that's probably a sign of a team that's, you know, desperate to make things happen, felt that we had the upper hand and we're just going to persist and go with one method. And I kind of get that, but it didn't work, and we've got to be a little bit wiser on the park. But we've had some great conversations and work-ons about that, and the good thing is that we know that they're a much improving team. They're strong defensively, so we're going to get those same sort of pitches this week. So we'll see how far we've grown.
Ian, you talked a lot this year about this team evolving, building. I think you even referred to rebuilding after Christchurch. What's holding them back from taking the next step, do you think?
Probably, if you look at the last 2 games, probably the consistency of composure in that last 20 minutes, I reckon. I think if you look at South Africa, we stayed calm, we stayed in the moment in that last 20, and even under a little bit of scoreboard pressure, we stuck to trusting the decisions that we make. I thought last week we went away from that a little bit, and it's frustrating, isn't it? And it's something that we are working hard on to grow the confidence of that last part of the game, to make sure that we embrace those moments, but also stay really clear in our decision making. And I think that's probably the one thing. There's other areas that are grown. I think have really grown through that time period. But again, you look at our set piece last week. You look at our line out scrum. Well, absolutely dominant. For 60 minutes, and then it faded away when we needed it. So that's the mark of the growth we need to make.
And you've opted for minimal changes the past few weeks. Just in terms of selection, if you don't make changes, where does that pressure come on incumbents to perform?
Sorry? Sorry. Yep.
Minimal changes the past few weeks.
So not changing the team, so where does the pressure come? Oh, I think the pressure comes from performance. And it always does, but yes, I guess as a group we are showing a lot of faith in this 15, and we signalled earlier that we need to grow combinations. We need to, and we felt that the best way to make changes is on top of a platform that we can then grow our game further. And clearly we haven't quite got that platform right yet. So our hunch is to go with a group that is working hard at the moment, that is slowly building combinations, and I think there's enough evidence that we're getting there in many parts of our game, but it's actually growing that confidence when we get into the tail end of the game has just consistently been strong, and it's an area that I think great All Black teams have always been good in that last 15 minutes of backing themselves and doing the right thing. And again, we've got it right in South Africa, and we got it wrong at Christchurch.
There's been changes to the coaching staff and trying to make changes in various systems, attack, Jason Ryan with the forwards and whatnot. Usually those things take time to get in, but from a results perspective, you probably don't have a lot of time. How are you managing that dynamic?
Tricky. It's not easy, it's not easy. So if there's definitely some new voices, and we're looking at a few new methods behind the scenes. I'm personally really excited about that, and have really enjoyed the trend of where we're going. But it always has to sort of result in results, doesn't it? That's the market that we're in. So I get all that, but. All I know is that I really believe in what's happening behind the scenes, and I guess when you look at new voices in the coaching group, and then it's probably one reason why we haven't made a lot of changes on the park. We haven't decided, we didn't want to change all the variables, but we just really feel we just need to cement some things that we're doing now. And I'm sure everyone's as frustrated, or we're as frustrated as everyone with last week's game, because it was a game that, based on what we saw on the park, it was a game we felt we did enough to put ourselves in a winning position, and we weren't ruthless enough to do it. So, few issues here.
2 guys going back to Taranaki, you were saying, are you releasing any more players?
Yeah, I think we're releasing about 8 players. So, we're releasing more than normal, and primarily based on, we've had 2 weeks in South Africa, we've come back, we've had I guess some new coaching voices. So we've wanted the group to stay together for last week, but with us leaving on Thursday to Melbourne and that being a short week, we can't have players playing next week. So we've made a decision to release quite a few this weekend.
On a personal level, Ian, how's this week been being back in hometown? Have you been able to get away from footy at all a little bit more? Or?
She's a tough job to get away from, particularly in a test week. So, look, I haven't wanted to get away from it, but is it good to be home? Yes, it is. You know, there's nothing like sort of going back and having a night's sleep in your own bed. So I've loved that. Figured out that my wife still loves me, which is important to me, but you know, I'm really proud of being from this region, and it's been a big part of my rugby. So I guess there's a whole lot of pride of being involved in the All Blacks in this part of the world, and you know, personally, I'd love nothing better than to put a performance on the park that shows that.
If things weren't to go well, lose again this weekend, how secure do you feel?
I don't think like that, Aaron. I'm an optimist.
Ian, what's your message to the public? They're going to see you've come off probably the most disappointing performance of the season, and there's been a few of them. And I guess the perception will be there's no accountability. You haven't made any changes to your starting 15. What's your message to people who might say, well, why isn't someone paid with things wrong?
Yeah, good question. I guess for those that want blood, I guess we haven't given it, have we? But I guess the message is, Mark, is that we've been pretty ruthless and hard on ourselves behind the scenes. We're hurting with where the team's at, but we're also trying not to. If we dwell too much on that, then you know, if you play under fear, then you restrict your options, you restrict your thinking, and what actually happens is that you just don't get the game going the way you want to do it. So part of what we're doing now is actually, okay, well, what do we believe in? And we actually believe in some things that we're working on now, and we believe that there's enough evidence that there were some things going really good, but man, it didn't translate to the result that we wanted. And we think the best way to build the confidence in those key pressure moments is to put the guys out there that have just been through it, have felt it, and now we've talked about some different solutions, so we're backing that. But there's pressure on. There's always pressure on individuals when they run out in a black jersey, and we're expecting a response in that particular area.
And just the other side of this, are you confident that some of those guys, particularly in the pack, that played a lot of rugby this year, that might have looked a little bit tired back into that test, are you confident guys, I guess like Sammy Whitelock, who's played a lot of rugby in his career, they've still got a spring in their step, they've still got what they need? Yeah,
look, I think Sammy's played some great tests, ironically, the last couple of months, and frankly, the yellow card near the end of the game didn't help some of that, where we had to leave a few legs on. So that's something that's a bit of a niggle in the last couple of tests, is that getting that yellow card near the end, where we maybe can't make the change that we want. But am I confident? Yes, I am. And in terms of the players, but they also know that we've got to respond.
Ian, can you talk to us about the development of Roger Tuivasa-Sheck as an All Black? I know when you named the team, you were quite keen to get a hold of it and work on a few things. Can you talk about his development as a player? Is he starting to see the things that will give you confidence to put him into a starting test match situation at any stage? So? Yeah, look, we're starting to see, pretty clear, and he's a fast learner. His work from the attacking side, particularly getting involved around our forwards in the middle of the park, is something that he hasn't spent a lot of time on during Super Rugby, so that's been taking a little while. His instincts at the breakdown are probably the number one growth point for him, and again we're seeing some really good strides in that space, and so he's another one of the guys that'll be playing NPC this weekend, and that's some aspects that he can go away and work on in that space. So overall really pleased with the growth, but I guess it's now just waiting for the opportunity. When you do release players, are you speaking specifically to the provincial coaches about what you are asking them to do, or is it one of those cases where just go away and play?
Yeah, there's a little bit of just go away and play. Look, the coaches have been outstanding, and there'll be some coaches that, you know, that if there's a sort of I guess if there's a key area that we do want a player to develop, we'll certainly share that. But it's a bit hard for the NPC coaches to change things that they're doing, and we plonk players back in. So it's not as easy as you think it is. So the general message is the player goes with a couple of key things that we want them to focus on, and that's probably a little bit more general to them as a rugby player than specific to a game plan type scenario.
And do you think we've started to see the results of prolonged Argentine participation in the rugby championship, like since they came in 10, 11 years ago? You know, like, is it no accident that we're starting to see Argentina tip up yourselves, Wallaby, stuff like that on a more regular basis?
Yeah, well, in some ways, yes. I mean, their scenario's changed dramatically, hasn't it? Like when they were involved in Super Rugby, they were probably guilty of getting worn out because of all the travel they did, and whereas the last couple of years they've become basically European-based players playing in European competitions, and when they've come together, they probably have done a lot less travel than what they used to. So you know, it could be the flip side of them leaving the Super Rugby competition has probably strengthened their squad from an international side.
Ian, you alluded to pressure for the players in performance. To reverse that almost, do you put pressure on yourself as a coaching group to come up with the results and come up with a game plan to win these games?
Yeah, of course we do.
Will Richie take the tee, Ian, first up again this weekend, or
Yep.
prefer to join?
Yeah, yes he will. Yep.
Cool, all happy? Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
Cheers, Fonzie, go.
Letting him go.
Yeah.
One. Cheers, bro.
Okay, team, when you are ready.
Dane, after having had to watch that game from the stands in Christchurch, how hungry does it make you to influence the return match here?
Yeah, like, I suppose you feel everything, regardless if you're not playing or you're playing in the team. But yeah, I'm just keen to, I suppose, add a bit of my experience and my impact, and just firstly just do my job. That's the most important thing. Don't try and win it by myself, or try determine the result by going out and trying to be a maniac. Just nail my set piece and add energy and do everything I can to put a performance in.
You guys obviously lost a few lineouts late in the piece there. Has that been an extra area of attention this week?
Yeah, we did look at it, and yeah, it's all, I suppose, outside you always think it's the hooker's fault. So there was a few things that we probably mucked up as a pack, but yeah, there's been a little extra detail, just trying to nail those throws. And as a hooker, I've been there, and I get around codes, and we've all had those situations that we've let ourselves down. So we've just got to work smarter as a pack and make sure we nail those crucial moments when we get the chance.
From a leadership point of view, especially around the discipline last week, has that kind of been a greater responsibility put on the leadership group to try and tidy up that discipline that I suppose led them back into the contest?
Yeah, it's. I think it's all up to the individuals that are on the park. It's just not being accurate in the scenarios and the situations that we're put in. So, we've been working really hard in that, and like Colsey said, just trying to do our job, but obviously have a feel of how the officials are officiating the game and adapting to that as quick as possible, so that we're not giving RG the opportunities to just build points and build pressure. So something that we're training.
Still on that, how do you think it'll be different with Nick Berry refereeing this weekend as opposed to last weekend's referee?
I'm not too sure, mate. I know it's going to be, a physical battle between both teams. So there's going to be a lot of bodies lying around the breakdown, a lot of people going for the ball. So I think we got to just obviously do our bit, but also try and, I guess, feel on how the rest refereeing the breakdown, or have a chat to them before the game, and be able to go from there.
Just at the end of last weekend's game with the penalty a couple of minutes out, whose call was it to go kick for the corner? Was there also thought of knocking over the three, try to get back and score a try to win the game?
Yeah.
What was the sort of process?
No, my call. I was captain at the time. Went for the corner. We thought we could. Our drives were going really well. We thought we could get 7 points, but obviously didn't happen. And in hindsight, you can look back and think of different scenarios of what could have happened. But yeah, that's just something that we made the call, backed ourselves, but didn't execute.
Was it sort of be happy with the draw against them, at that time, as opposed to trying a tough way to victory?
Yeah, well, if you looked at the game, it was a bit, we were building multiple phases, but we couldn't quite get our game going. So my mindset was taking the three and then getting the ball kicked back into our own half and trying to get out of our own half. Kind of had that feeling, or felt like probably wasn't realistic. So yeah, we thought we'd go for the 7-pointer.
You made a call based on instinct. How hard is it when there is a little bit of pressure on to trust that instinct and dare it and not overthink the process that you're going through this game?
Yeah.
And you can probably answer that as well, having done the job to various stages.
Yeah, I think with those pressure moments, you train those in the week. So when it does happen, you fall into those natural habits and those instincts. And I think, we got great leaders on the field as well, so you lean on them as well. And we made the decision to do that. And there's pressure moments where you come on the field and, mate, it's easy in hindsight. When, depending on the result, if you win, great call. If you lose, terrible call. So that's just the world we live in, mate. And those are the pressure moments that I guess as an All Black we love to live in. And sometimes we get it right, sometimes we get it wrong. And that's just the reality of it.
Yeah, I think you summed it up pretty
you
well.
do a
Right?
lot of thinking around the mental side of sport and life.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, just how would you describe the kind of mindset, the mental sort of state that you guys are in at the moment, and how important is getting the right mindset to kind of fixing some of these problems you're having as a team?
Yeah. Obviously, our focus is staying together and staying tight. Really, and actually being really accountable to ourselves in terms of what's going wrong in our game and what we have to do. That's something that we really look hard at ourselves. But yeah, one thing is, when we're going through these times, it's staying together, staying tight, but at the same time, actually pulling each other up on what needs to be done to get the result. So, we're tight, connected, and just got to turn up every day and nail our job.
Dan, you've always been a kind of a straight speaker when it comes to what the team needs to do. Has it almost gone past that now, or is it kind of, you can't bulk each other over and over and over again, can you? I mean, what's your feeling around what's needed to kind of turn this thing around?
Yeah, it's obviously a unique situation being in this team and what we're going through. I think there's a process. Like after the game, you always feel like the world's ended, like the first couple of days, and then I think the review and like Artie said, the accountability it gives you, I suppose, solutions that you can actually get better and fix up things that you're not getting right. So I think the number one thing is getting solutions on how to close out games, win the game, and be better in that. And then, like I've been in a couple of teams where we've lost, and I think the thing at the moment, there's been no blame game or pointing the finger or people going rogue on their own kind of tour. It's been a real collective buy-in to try and get the result and be consistent in our performance, which is, I think, a real positive. So yeah, I think those have been the two biggest things, and I suppose being on the outside you might not think that's probably happening, but there's a lot of hard work that's going into to get the win, and we needed that. So as soon as we go rogue and become individual, that's when I think it's going to get worse. So I think
and you touched on it. This is kind of a new territory for you guys, isn't it? You're figuring out something a bit different for you guys.
Yeah, unfortunately it is. It's a place that this team hasn't been. So everyone's just got to stand up, get accountability. If someone comes at you for you're not doing the job right, then you just got to get on with it and take the feedback on board. And I think, like I said, that you just got to be clear and free. Like there's a lot of stuff that's happening, but at the end of the job, just go out there, enjoy the occasion, and then just do your job. Simple as that. And have fun.
You've got a lot of faith in the starting 15 week after week. I guess as a group, do you feel like you guys, I know the result that didn't go your way, but throughout this year, do you feel like this group in the starting 15 is evolving each game?
Yeah, it is. Like if you look in the weekend, for majority of that game, we should have closed out that game and finished it, but we didn't. So, look, mate, it's as a player, if you get selected, you get selected, and you back yourself and you back the trusted mates that you get selected next year to go out and do a job. And that selection process is out of our hands. All we can do is turn up. I feel like this team, like Colsey said, has been in an unfamiliar territory. The All Blacks haven't been in this kind of big situation like this before, so we're navigating that space too. All I know is that the boys that get named, they never take it for granted, so they always try and go out there and try to be their best, and at the same time be free and clear and just jam.
How important are the combinations with no changes to the starting 15? How much is that an eye towards next year and all that as well?
How important the combinations?
Yeah, combinations and positioning.
Yeah, I guess you can say it's important to build, the chemistry around that. In terms of thinking of next year, I'm thinking about today, pretty much, and this weekend. So, yeah, it's important. It's important to build combinations, but at the same time, you got to perform under those pressure moments. And if you don't, then things can happen.
Just on the loose forwards,
Last one, please.
On the loose forwards, what's sort of the key to getting that sort of dominance, if you like, that might have been not there in recent times? Is there sort of focus is there for them?
I'm not too sure, mate. Do you feel like we haven't been dominating the last couple of games, or is that all?
Yeah, perhaps.
Oh, is that what you're meaning? Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, I mean, I felt like the Lucy's, had been kind of fronting up, and we're just trying to navigate the space of just new breed of players. I think for so long New Zealand's been used to Rito, the McCaws, the Jeromes, that have been quite they're amazing, and you've got a bunch of new boys coming through, and myself as well, that are trying to stamp their mark. So it's a day-to-day, week-to-week process. But yeah, I feel like we're tracking well, and we're putting our best foot forward.
Andy, sorry guys, I've just got two players waiting outside. If it's all right, I'll let these boys go. Cheers, Lex.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Yeah, sweet. Good, bro. Thank you.
Good. Sweet.
Thanks, man.
Last one. Okay, good to go.
Richie, on Sunday, Ian Foster sort of said the All Blacks need to sort of break their DNA, was how he termed it, of just running the ball no matter what. I guess we're chasing the game as much as anything. Just wondering what you thought of those comments. Do you feel that that is sort of a bit of a mindset the teams to break out of a wee bit? Or?
Sort of my understanding was there's just not one way to score points. Sort of variation in what we can do to build pressure, kicking, other tactics that might work, and against the Argentinian team that were fired up, ready to defend anything, I think we could have been smarter.
What about you, Aaron? The same question. Do you think the All Blacks at times are guilty of playing the running game too much?
Yeah, I think the variety is key, but I think the mentality from our boys to want to be able to hold the ball, build pressure, use our attack. But as we see with the Northern Hemisphere teams and the teams so far in the Rugby Championship, it's been they want to give us the ball, they don't really want to play, and they're really attacking our breakdown. And so if you attack with the ball for a long period of time, you're giving them opportunities and they're taking them. So variation, that was something we looked at hard out in the review around we can still use our kicking game, use the ball to pressure teams and obviously turn them around, because teams at the moment are going 2 or 3 phases and then just kicking it because that's their tactic, and they try to punish us at the breakdown, really, and that's what the Argies did.
Richie, what was your big takeaway from, I guess, the players are talking about taking responsibility for your own South being the first kind of step in the solution. What did you take out of that Christchurch test? How can you, in terms of how can you be better this week?
I think just nailing a few key moments in the game. I think there were times we couldn't apply pressure because of errors, and that's just footy in a nutshell. That's really simple. You make a mistake, you hand the ball over. You're inaccurate, you're penalised, and I think accuracy is a really big one for us this week. And I think we didn't have a lot of that, or a lot of that together to have really good phases and parts where we were putting pressure on them. That's sort of my take on it.
In terms of the tactical game, do you take onus on that because you are one of the leaders in that side of things?
Yeah, I do. I think technically we could have kicked more a little bit, but you look in those later stages of the game, we're in their half, firing shots, and they defended well and penalised for holding on or side entry, and there's not much else you can do apart from spread the ball a little wider, clean a little faster. But those are the things we've been working on, and yeah, just really excited to have another opportunity.
Aaron, how do you change the mindset of a lifetime if you're talking about, maybe not running the ball as much? Because you're probably in this room that's played rugby, that's what they just wanted to do when they were a kid, get the ball and charge. When you get to this stage of your career as a professional player, how hard is it that is so ingrained to have that time to pause, think, even though it's momentarily in a test match, to make those decisions, to fight an instinct, I suppose, in that crowd?
Yeah, I think it's key to be really aligned as a group around our identity is how we want to play, and it isn't trying to hold the ball for long periods of time if we're not going anywhere. And as a 9 and 10, we've talked about it a lot around trying to get to positions where we can turn them around, pressure them, and reading the situation of where the game's at, and then at the sense of RG weren't trying to win the game, they just were trying not to lose it. And they used their D for that, and we played into their hands in that sense, but there's plenty of opportunities, plenty of space to turn them around, but also around using the ball through wider channels, spreading them out. And when we were doing that, when we had the balance of playing in the front, out the back, having our good ball carriers bend them, because they're not coming with massive line speed like we faced with Ireland or South Africa, but they fill the field well and they tackle well, and so it's not really a point, but it's just more being really bulletproof clear on how we're trying to play, and when we lose momentum we need to turn them around, and where is the space, because there is plenty of space to be able to do that.
So is it more of a cerebral game from your positions as drivers? Is it more a mental side of things as much as it is physical, maybe compared to earlier on in your career?
No, I think any time you think about rugby and you've got the balance right or you get things right, it's around keeping your forwards going forward, and that's through kicking or passing and attacking, and reading those moments where they've got a good thick line, there's got to be space in behind, and when they defend with 13 or so in the front line and they've got 2 guys in the bunkers, there's space somewhere. And as we saw with the RGs, they didn't go plus 4 or 5 phases at all. So they don't want the ball. We need to be able to turn them around and make them play the game that they don't want to. And we just got to be better at the breakdown is the main one, and attacking together.
So given that those other teams that you have mentioned are having success, how confident are you that the All Blacks have got the right style and the right philosophy about playing rugby for this modern game?
I'm very confident in our team's ability. If you watch the first half, minus some of our discipline for offsides and that, which gave them points, we were dominating them. We were breaking them up. We were walking up the field through our phase play attack, and we're just unable to get over the line. But there's a lot of positives there in that first half around how we felt with the scoreboard and our own eagerness to want to get off the line or not get back, kept them in the game. And RG weren't trying to beat us through their play. They just had a plan around attacking our breakdown. And they got a guy that can kick a ball 60 metres and he doesn't miss. And history says that for us, that when our discipline's poor we don't let many tries in, but we lose because of the pressure of the scoreboard of them being able to stack moment on moment through 3 points, and they're real gut checks. And then, so it's just around the balance of that. But I'm totally confident in our boys. Everyone's got the knives out, throwing them at us, so we don't mind that. The pressure we're putting on ourselves as leaders and as group, we're walking towards that.
Rich, just on that, I suppose, is it important for you guys as a group to reflect on that first half as much as it is what happened in the second half? Yes, a lot's been made of the discipline, but is it important to reflect on what worked well and the rewards you got in the first half where you were dominated?
Yeah, very much so. We, as Nagy said, we put a lot of pressure on them, and that was just playing free-flowing footy. And I think when we can get to that and understand when can we get to it, how, then we're in a good spot. But it's footy, it's not always free-flowing, so how can we put pressure on somewhere else? And I think that's a lot of the learnings that we took out of the game.
How's Joe been coming in charge of the attack? I know it's only been a couple of weeks so far, but how's his influence been on the attack side of things?
He's awesome. Yeah, I love him. I haven't met him previous before the ABs, but just love his different perspective, and it's always to have someone with a new fresh pair of eyes to explain things a bit differently. So he's added a lot to this group, and just look forward to working with him more along the way.
Aaron, for a team that's previously been renowned for its consistency, how frustrating is it to sort of become inconsistent as a senior player?
I think we're sort of stuck in the bottle of each week, so we're trying to always get better. And I think in the last month we've made massive strides through our defence. Our forwards have given us amazing platform through the scrum and the line-out. There's not much we can say to them. They're doing amazing work there. I think it's just the consistency of, we're chasing the 80-minute performance, and I don't think we've been able to hit. We sort of had great patches this year, and 20 minutes versus Ireland in the first game. Africa over there at Ellis Park, the last 10 minutes, the bench coming on, like it's in there. So that balance of our forwards giving us the ball, our spacks using it right, when we get our breakdown right, our D's in a really good spot. Teams aren't scoring many tries against us through just striking at us. So it's all there. It's just around putting it together, and we're working bloody hard. Like I said, the pressure we're putting on ourselves to get better is there, and it's coming, and we're just really excited about playing the Argies again. It's the beauty of the rugby championship. You get 2 shots of them, and they got the first one, and they've got to come to Hamilton, and we felt each other out for 80 minutes last week, so we're looking forward to another battle. And trust me, there's a lot of boys that are ready to play on Sunday to try to fix this and make it right, and to be given the opportunity again is bloody exciting.
Aaron, in your time playing in the rugby championship, is this the most competitive it's been across all 4 teams?
Yep, I'd say, well, results-wise, yep. I think definitely in the early part of the rugby championship was Africa and Australia, where it was whoever could get the 2 wins for another team, so there was always the odd split, win one, lose one, but it's going to come down to in the next few weeks. It's going to be very exciting, and the winner's going to come down to a bonus point or something, points differential, who knows, but it's really cool to see. But I think that's the stage of world rugby at the moment. Every team in that top 10 rankings can lose and win, and that's the beauty of our sport. The levels just come so far, and there's no any easy wins anymore. There's none of that. It's just what team shows up, and when they show up, you've got to make sure your game's right where it needs to be.
You alluded to it just before, but do you almost look at this match as a do or die in a position that All Blacks haven't really been in a rugby championship before?
Mate, we're All Blacks. It's always do or die. That's how we see the game. The pressures to perform. Whenever you get given the black jersey, you have a huge role to play. The pressure's always on us. We know that, and you know, and rightly so. We've got a rich and proud history as a nation and as a rugby nation, and we haven't been getting it right lately, and you know, it's front of mind for us. And yeah, I can't wait. We're just going to focus on this game and get it right.
One last one, please.
I know it hasn't been a long time since the two new assistants have come in, but do you feel like there's a bit of a step forward since they've come in?
Yeah. I've got a good view of the forwards and the work I see them do, and I'm around the line out and scrum a bit, and he's got them humming, and like I've said before, around the set piece, it's at a real scary place, which is pretty cool. Our maul in the weekend, being able to put the ball in your half at a scrum and just sit at the back and watch it get a penalty relieves pressure. So they've got another big shift, but the work Jace Ryan's doing, and then what Joe brings with his level of detail and intensity, it's just what we needed. It's been great, and Joe sees the game differently. He sees things that only Joe would see, I'd say, and reminds me a lot of Wayne Smith in the sense of his intensity and his level of detail, because if you don't know your stuff or your homework, he calls you out pretty quick. He asks you pretty forward questions around, what does this guy do here? What's the trigger here for the switch? If you don't know or haven't done your homework, get embarrassed in front of everyone pretty quickly. So he brings that without having to say too much either.
Has that been hard to get used to, Aaron, with Joe? And is he holding anything back as well? Because it's only been a couple of weeks and doesn't probably want to overload.
Nah, he's come in and his first presentation was bone deep, very honest. But it's all things that, it's nothing special either. It's always just the little things, and the things that when you probably not have a break in rugby, but you think, it's not on me, or it's not a big, I can't really affect the play, stuff like that. But it's the stuff he does between the drills and comes over to you if you did a little something and that, he'll hit it right then. But I think growing up, especially where we're at the moment, just telling it straight, fixing it right then, and assuming nothing. It's been great with Joe, and already seen it at training, even in walkthroughs and that, he chases complete detail every time, and that's it's been cool. And like I said, you got to make sure he's always watching.
Anyone's been in detention then?
Nah, it's good.
Cool, thanks everyone.
Thank you guys.